I started my working career as a chartered accountant, and I did 25 years in working in large companies, helping improve processes. So that was great. I travelled the world, I got married, I had a family. In my early 40s, I took some time out. I didn't want to be working and travelling with work the way I had been because I had young kids. And I also got involved in an investment which went badly wrong. And I didn't realise at the time, but wasn't regulated. As a consumer, I hadn't really understood the difference. And so I lost a bit of capital. And it made me start to really think about how people build their money, save their money, and reflecting on what happened to me. And I realised that although I was a numbers girl, having done accountancy, that was a world away from financial services and products that you put your money into, but ended up meeting an IFA firm down in Surrey where I'm based, and then through lockdown started helping them to talk to accountants about why they would use financial advisors and finding the clients that might need help from a financial advisor. And inevitably sitting and listening to the advisors talking to the clients that the accountants brought in. I was sitting in meetings, listening to people talk about their lives, their hopes and dreams, and seeing how the advice then came in and played a part and helped them manage their money and take their lives forward, perhaps in a different way. And I got the bug for it, and I thought, I think I could do this. I think I'd like to help people and be an advisor myself. And so there was a guy who had recently qualified in the firm, and he said there's two routes, and he'd gone down the CII route, and then he said the CII has training, but there's other private firms as well that you can do more intensive training. And so I decided, right, I would self-fund it. I'd give myself up to a year, and I would take the exams R1 to 06. I'd go down the CII route, and I then started trying to investigate whether there were any sort of top-up study support materials or companies that I could use to further that quicker. I think lots of people have more than one career in their life. Certainly women have breaks for children. I see clients who have been employed and then become self-employed, or vice versa. I feel much more confident in my 40s setting up now as a professional who needs a lot of technical skills, but also needs a lot of interviewing, listening, empathizing, because they're not skills I had at 21. I was keen to get on a plane and get air miles and travel the world, and I definitely wanted a salary. I would never have considered self-employment. It was a different time in my life. I know people do get into it straight from school, but I feel, and perhaps for the work, that the niches that I'll go into with this, that it's more suited to me as a second career. A lot of the way I wanted to study, and I think a lot of people still do, is putting pen to paper and making notes. And I realised that I had to take this quite offline. And so I did go through R01, but I knew that for the rest of the year, or however long it was going to take, I had to find someone that would have PDFs that would let me download material completely and potentially then be very much analog instead of being connected. And there's some great things being connected, and quizzes and having a Zoom call with a tutor, but I knew that the rump of it, I needed the materials to be available offline to me. And so I went looking for alternatives, and then I found yourselves. The platform itself was great. I mean, I could go online, buy the module, but then I downloaded it, and from then on I wasn't at the mercy of my connection. I was just there in my own time with the materials. And yes, the fact it was broken into the weekly stuff, which we'll talk about, was really useful as well, because if you're not in a firm where there's lots of you and they're driving the timetable, then you have to do that for yourself. And there's already a lot to do. You're trying to get to grips with a new discipline, and you're trying to get to grips with how to study again. And there's so much that you're trying to do that just to have someone actually tell you a little bit or lead you a little bit was really helpful. You know, I was aware that there were people who I met who were employed doing it, but then their challenge is they're working all day for their employer and maybe studying at night. And so the commuting time is key. And I just became quite obsessive about the need to be able to download materials and take them away into whatever lifestyle I was, in at that time, that month. school holidays, term time, the peaks and troughs of how you can focus and do your studying. And that's so important, as we know, in terms of exam technique. You need still, you need quiet, and so I just had to have the materials available. So it was appreciated. With RO1, and again with other friends I sort of got to know, I felt very impressed early on that I would get a quick response from your team. I had the materials, and there are quizzes and there are videos and there are lots of things I could go back and re-examine, because things tend to need to drip feed in. If you think of the whole syllabus, maybe you've been a paraplanner and you know lots about one area, but maybe you've never done anything around tax, or in my case I knew loads about tax but I knew nothing about protection. So you come at each module with maybe some knowledge, but you don't know what you don't know, and sometimes you don't even know how to learn it. And so you maybe read, and if there's a lot of heavy text, you might get to the end of the page and think, I've been thinking about the school run, I haven't taken in any of that. And then you go look at a quiz and you think, oh great, so the mix of learning techniques is really helpful. It was helpful to have materials and then other forms of study. And then I started emailing, and I had to find my feet, because I thought, well, I don't know whether I'll get an answer quickly, and I really need to clear this bit up to go on to the next chapter. But I got an email, often within a day, certainly the next day. If I sent it on a Sunday, it was sort of 10 a.m. Monday morning, or even when I logged on Monday. And I just thought, this is brilliant. I didn't really know how many people or branches or what was behind your company, but it didn't really matter, because if I was sat at home and I had a question, somebody came back to me really quickly, and that was really, really appreciated. And so very helpful, the guides, the quizzes, the email and phone calls. I mean, that was all the support that you offered. There was a range of things, and I took advantage of all of that. I worked out that your weekly XYZ could be my plan of XYZ as well, and it gave me manageable chunks to get through. And I always felt after the end of a week I needed to kind of go back and perhaps do some quizzing or some extra reading or go through the videos, and it was just a great pause in the material, because otherwise you have no structure. I mean, I don't think I'm that unusual. You're in the hands of the material. As I got further through the RO exams, I came to realise a lot of people felt that the CII text was quite dry and quite sort of one-dimensional, and I had downloaded it for RO1 and found it really quite unwieldy. So my sense was that Red Mill's materials were quite different but quite focused. When it got to the exams, which for me this is really the important point, is it's about passing the exams. And so I felt that the skill of how your materials have been put together are absolutely laser focused about passing the exam. I don't mean they're not trying to teach you, but based on the fact you're sitting on your own in a room rather than sitting in a classroom, it's giving you the most sort of important angle on the key concepts. And you had summaries at the end, and as I got to RO6, where it's all about the technique, just the complete focus on this is what you need to take away from it. And it really helped me then to try and imagine the job at the end. This is about helping people in their lives. It's not about knowing every EIS threshold or every capital gains tax limit or NIC. It's about learning the skills to help people. So I really felt it was valuable, the content and the way it was. Probably I sense is a bit hard. I know that some of the questions that I did in the training and the mocks with yourselves, the exams didn't feel as hard. So maybe there's a sense that you've over prepared me, I don't know, but I felt fairly relaxed going into the exams. I absolutely would. I've sort of bigged you up on LinkedIn. I mean, it really helped me get there. I felt really secure going into each exam that I'd learned a lot and that I was ready to try and take the exams. So absolutely no question. And I think the fact that you're in Scotland and I'm at the bottom of the country, it just shows it doesn't really matter where you are, because people work virtually. So absolutely, yeah, a complete endorsement. So hopefully I'll be using you again as I do some more dreaded exams, but not for a while. So at the moment I'm self-employed, and I'd like to keep it that way, because the big change for me has been going from helping fix companies to helping people with their lives. So I want to have a client bank that I build, and for the next, let's say 15 or 20 years that I've got left to work, build up something of my own. I don't know what that model looks like. I'm talking to networks, I'm talking to small firms with perhaps retiring partners, and I'm in the firm that I was always an introducer for. I'm morphing from a BD role into being an advisor with them. But it's a big profession. There's lots and lots of opportunity. There's lots of different models. There's obviously the role of technology, and there's niches. I'm really interested in helping women, because of where I live and my sort of catchment or contacts. I know lots of people who perhaps have lost a husband and inherited money, have never been the person that had any education around money. So I think there's something about taking on money and learning how to do the right thing with it. And that leads on into inheritance tax as well. And divorce is another area which the parallel is the same. Perhaps you've got to take on some money and manage it for yourself for the next phase of your life, and you don't know how to do that. So there's a definite flavour for me of helping women with changes in their life. And I hope in the Southeast there's plenty of clients for me to find that I can help do that.